As the old song goes, times they are a-changing. It seems corporations, while looking for the next big thing in profit-making, have found that moving from people buying something outright to making it a subscription service or pay-as-you-go is the way of the future. The likes of Microsoft have changed their Office software to this, and perhaps Windows itself, moving forward, will go the same way. So instead of being able to pay a one-off fee for the program you need, which may see you through for the next few years or beyond, companies will charge a monthly subscription that will try and lock you in with them for as long as they can. It's especially nasty as companies in the software business seem to have made a habit of releasing half-assed, barely functional software over the past few years and fixed it as they went on. I don't like the idea of being an unofficial tester for these companies while paying for the privilege. That's why I play mostly older games now. Perhaps, just like telephone companies or power companies, more and more will try and value add by giving you bundled discounts if you lock in with other products from the same supplier. Buy our operating system and get a discount off your Office software. All this locking in when you buy something has actually been going on for a while now, with printers using proprietary ink cartridges that cost more than the printer itself, to battery power tools using their own battery designs, and all the while the consumer gets blamed for the increasing landfill caused by these non-standard and usually non-reusable items. Meanwhile, mobile phones and TV services charge you fees and bundle in services to make it look like value for money, but to those who just want a basic service, it just seems they're paying for things they don't need. Virus checkers have got you covered here with a free basic version. All you have to do is put up with the constant ads, reminders and discount coupons with the odd fear campaign that the premium service protects so much more. Moving away from software, look at healthcare. Something that was once one of the few benefits of paying taxes got farmed out to companies to battle over as a monthly subscription. And with all things set up like this, those that get in at the start seem to have the most benefits, for a time at least, as the companies forego massive profits to get people to sign up with them rather than their competitors, to expand quickly in the hope of becoming the largest. Those that can afford it get the best on offer. But as the companies consolidate and buy each other out, the irony is that the prices go up due to profiteering for the shareholders and staffing costs. Then a quick look back at the bill to see a charge of $10,000 for an anesthesiologist makes you wonder why the world isn't full of them. And so more and more clients that can no longer afford the privilege drop out, which of course makes more of a financial burden on those still in the system. Meanwhile, those able to get state funding get put further and further down a list for their healthcare needs as the same doctors do operations for all patients, private and public. And so a finite resource. Those that can afford to pay simply go to the head of the queue and get treated a little better in aftercare. Higher education, again, once a stalwart of taxpayer advantage, now seems to work the same. And the fact is, they all seem to offer choice at first, but soon become effective monopolies or collude with their peers for more profits. Some that operate like this you can avoid, like going to college at all, or avoid for a short term only, like petrol stations. Buying fuel is not a set timed monthly fee, but sooner or later you have to fill up the car. The big oil companies will have your patronage at some stage, a little like banks. And as sure as you are that the fuel companies collude to keep their prices within a couple of cents and fluctuate together on the same days, you can be sure that the banks collude to have the same effective interest rates as well. Otherwise, why wouldn't one go rogue and offer a higher interest rate to get more money coming in? The meagre extra % or two they offer you would be more than offset by the difference in lending rates. But again, they have gone through the period of having to fight for your patronage, and the consolidation has meant only a few are left standing, and they pretend to be independent of each other to avoid monopoly and antitrust laws from triggering. Looking at the balance sheet, though, will show you how much they really care about their clients versus profits. Something that's been gaining my attention as well is the idea of negative interest rates coming soon. There are rumblings of the need for this, if other financial problems should occur, and given that 10, 20 and 30-year bonds recently went negative, it's almost a sure thing. With these rumblings, though, comes the realization laws are being passed or proposed in many countries that are putting restrictions on cash transactions. The reason? Well, if negative rates come in, the banks won't get their subscription rates in the form of taking some of your money if you can just withdraw it all as cash and not be penalised. Banks won't be able to charge you to hold your own money and loan it out at a positive interest rate for themselves, so cash has to be restricted or done away with entirely so the bank will have the electronic money to chip away at, either from your account or, if you spend it, from the person who you just bought products from. And so a frenzy of pass-the-parcel spending can occur because no one wants to be left with this particular parcel when the music stops, or they'll be effectively losing money. And so here we live in an ever-increasing subscription service world, locked in with little choice on the power, water, rates, mortgage. They're all just a different form of subscription service, one that's likely to only get worse and more expensive as time goes on. Some you have to participate in. Others you can try and get along with without, like insurance. But the worst subscription service by far is surely government. One we are forced to participate in. Again, at first it may have seemed like a good deal. Pay a small tax or subscription and get education, a pension, unemployment safety net and hospital cover, among other things. Then, as it becomes pretty much a monopoly with a handful of board members suggesting slightly different ways to reach the same outcome, the consumer was thought of less and less. The bundles of services that made it so popular in the beginning were slowly let go or quietly swept away, as they knew they were really the only horse in town apart from a few they might collude with, and having no real competition breeds contempt soon enough. I've had a quick thought to myself while writing this, wondering how a subscription government should work in a capitalist society. The consolidation should not be allowed to avoid collusion, so why not use antitrust or monopoly laws to break up the government into totally separate entities as a start? Have about 10 separate smaller companies costing less to run as their own entity. No need for Congress and such. Run each company like their healthcare department as a non-for-profit, with everyone as shareholders. Imagine choosing where your taxes went and making each group work within their means. Really beholden to the people, so it would be just a small step from where we currently have, in departments run under a party, to a group of separate companies. An education company, a transport company, etc. If you as an individual want more money in aged care, research and hospitals, then you allocate more of your tax percentage there and expect a yearly report to show where the money's spent. Maybe you have to allocate at least 1% to every company so that you can use the services from them, but allocate larger percentages to parties you used more or believed in more. 50% to health, 10% to transport, 10% to arts, 10% to education, 5% to military, etc. It would be interesting to see where people really wanted their money spent rather than pooled and doled out by politicians in this pretend democracy. It would also effectively split funds so money would go to the heart of the area you wanted instead of possibly being diverted elsewhere. Now, I know this idea is a rough thought, but I'm just throwing it out there because someone will inevitably ask, well, what's the solution? When all they really mean is they have no ideas and don't expect you to have one either. What about a jury duty for the laws being passed by government? You'd have 12 people taken from the general populace to sanction or curtail proposed laws. How about that one? Fairly simple changes to the status quo, right? Nothing really radical and all in the interests of the people, right? Look, doing nothing is easy, but not really an option now if you want to avoid slavery, is it? Something does need to be thought up and worked towards to start a change, preferably before the next downturn, because I can see a time where the many beg the so-called leaders once again, the ones who allowed it all to happen in the first place because of their complacency. And if we keep on going down that path, it's into the very mouth of madness, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.